Brody, your reaction to this Dave Aranda news, it seems very fluid, but overnight it seems as if he is not going to be UNLV's head coach.
Yeah, man, I'm following Bruce, so what do you need me for on this situation?
Okay.
But yeah.
A little mad?
No.
Sorry.
Bruce is the godfather. Yeah, no, I mean, it's been a interesting thing to follow. I mean, Dave Aranda is somebody that, I mean, like whenever I do a story in my time here of anything about Dave Aranda, I always try to ask people close to him, just casually, I mean, what do you think Dave Aranda wants? Like, because he's kind of a closed off isn't quite the right word, but not exactly Mr. Outgoing that everybody's super connected to. And some of his best friends in the profession say, like, hey, I have no idea what he actually wants to do after LSU. I think he's a tough guy to get a read on. Most of his good friends in coaching thought NFL was the most likely thing he'd want to do. Now, based on all the reporting from Bruce and others, it seems like he is interested in being a head coach. But obviously, as Bruce said on your show, it seems like it's probably good news for LSU that didn't go through with UNLV.
Brody, looking forward to this playoff. We talked about in the Hold That podcast a bit, but when LSU versus Oklahoma, what jumps off the page to you as we're early on in breaking down this matchup?
Points, Steve. Lots of points.
Points.
I mean, it's no secret that LSU's offense is a juggernaut, and we've seen them play every one of the top defenses in the SEC at this point, and they still put up whatever they want. And now they're facing an Oklahoma defense that, by all standards, is not exactly very strong. And then you go against an Oklahoma offense that is, per SP plus, number one in the country. It's got a dominant run game. It's got a pretty darn good passing game. And what's probably a little scary to LSU is that, part of what they do so well with Jalen Hurts, who has over 1,300 rushing yards, is some of those counter concepts and kind of option-y run concepts and whatnot. That's exactly what Ole Miss did to put up over 400 yards on LSU. And do I think it's going to be a disaster like that game was? No, I think that was a pretty unique situation, but I think it presents some of the same challenges that LSU can have sometimes in the open field.
News here breaking from ESPN. Kentucky's Lynn Bowden Jr. wins the Hornung Award for the most versatile college football player. Of course, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a finalist for that. I was surprised as well. I just read it come across the ticker.
I was wondering why you got so mad. I was like, did Brody say something? You had a look of disgust on your face during that answer. So that's what you discovered.
Yeah,
okay.
I just saw that Bowden wins that award. That's surprising to me. Surprising to you?
Surprising, maybe not the right word, because Bowden is, I mean, obviously we probably don't watch a ton of Kentucky football, but I mean, he saved their season. He's their star, playmaking receiver, running back type, and then he plays quarterback and takes them to a bowl game when it seemed like their season was over. I mean, I think if he was at a bigger program, he would be one of the biggest names in college football. So I can't criticize it, but I do think it's like Clyde Edwards-Helaire probably deserved a lot of consideration there. Athletic just came out with our All-American teams, and he's not on it, and I'm a little surprised because I pushed pretty hard for it. I think, I really think he's probably the second best offensive player on this LSU team this season, which I say that is a very strong statement.
And so I was going to ask you, with the Athletic All-American team, who made it from LSU, and who do you think maybe got snubbed?
Yeah, snub's always tricky, but Joe Burrow is obviously the first team. There's 4 first-team guys. There's Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Damian Lewis made it, and Derek Stingley Jr. So, I mean, all of those guys, are kind of generally what you expected. I was a little surprised no Christian Fulton. I was a smidge surprised no Justin Jefferson, but not exactly because it's just such a good wide receiver year. And I was definitely surprised there was no Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Brody, I know we discussed this on the podcast before. Who should win the Belitnikoff?
I remember you and I had that argument about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I was team CeeDee Lamb just because I think CeeDee Lamb might be the best receiver in college football by some, and I'm saying that as this is an amazing receiving year. But CeeDee Lamb had little injury issues, so that took him out of it. He had stretches where he barely caught the ball, partially because of that. And then Jamar Chase has just elevated his game seemingly every single week as his sophomore year has gone on. And most importantly, probably has elevated his game most against the best defenses in the country while being double-teamed and all these things. So I'm at a point now where I think Jamar Chase certainly deserves the Belitnikoff, and there's a reason I'm pretty sure he was our number 1 receiver in our All-American team.
Talking to Brody Miller of the Athletic. Go Falls work there. It is spectacular. Brody, you mentioned Oklahoma's offense, the one offense in the S&P Plus that actually ranks above LSU. If you look at LSU's personnel, or maybe what else you want to do you have a position group or a player that you think is maybe the key to containing Hurts and the Sooners?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that key is a healthy Grant Delpit and the development of Maurice Hampton and all that, because I just think that can't be understated. There were a lot of things that went wrong, and I keep using the Ole Miss as an example, and it's not a one-to-one comparison, but it's a solid one. And I think obviously the key to that game was, man, those safeties took bad angles. Grant Delpit was clearly not himself, and his ankle was clearly bothering him, and he couldn't cut. So he'd be in the open field, and one cut, and the running back or Plumlee would be gone. Having him healthy is massive in this game. Same with Jacoby Stevens having a better day. And then the big thing is if Mo Hampton has really earned the trust that it seems like he's on the verge of doing, then you can get, as we've talked about at length, more creative. You can get Delpit and Stevens down the box more, which I think is the most. Having those three safety looks is probably the most important thing for the rest of the playoff, because you're about to play three really talented open field spread offenses. So you need more of those hybrid bodies that can play in coverage and stop the run.
Brody, last one. Major Burns decommitted this morning. That's another decommitment, the fourth here before the early signing period. I know you don't cover recruiting every day like some of those guys on the beat, but what are your thoughts on this class as they close in on this early period coming up next week?
Yeah, I mean, from everyone I've talked to, it really seems like they have a chance to have kind of an all-time class, one of the better classes in recent LSU history. And obviously, as Bruce just said on your show, I mean, there is no hotter program than LSU right now, and it's an exciting place to go. So if you're an offensive player, you're a part of this new movement. If you're a defensive player, you already wanted to go. LSU was already one of your top places, and now it's an actual title contender. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a good chance they land some massive fish down the stretch. You know as well as me that some of the numbers that they're cutting down the stretch is because they're making room for some of the top players in the country. So all in all, this is all good news for LSU.
My bad. I got 30 seconds. Are you hearing Frank Wilson's name anywhere around there?
I've heard about the same as Bruce on that I don't think anyone knows exactly what he wants to do yet. I think LSU would love to make room for him if it works out. It's just a tricky situation, right? Yeah. Because you have Tommy Robinson. You never know if Tommy Robinson's going to be here next year. You never know if he wants to maybe go to the NFL or something like that. But then you also have Kevin Falk, who was the unspoken assumption that he might be the running backs coach one day or something like that. So, it's just kind of interesting to see how it would work with Frank Wilson. But at the same time, I think you make room for Frank Wilson if you can. But it's all hypothetical right now.
Last one. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.